Did you see at the end of the trailer for Pokemon Legends Z-A how that Z came on screen? This game must be about Zygarde, right? That's what I was thinking anyway, but Pokemon X and Y came out over 10 years ago. A lot of people might not be that aware of Zygarde. My name's Kayla, and in this video, I'm gonna be looking at everything we know about Zygarde and how it could possibly relate to Pokemon Legends Z-A. Let's start off with a fun fact. Zygarde is the last Pokemon alphabetically. With the title being Z-A, does that mean that the first Pokemon alphabetically could have some sort of meaning related to Zygarde? Well, unfortunately, the first Pokemon alphabetically is Abomasnow, so not currently. However, a lot of people speculate that the A in the logo might be a new Pokemon, or a new form of an existing Pokemon. It's very likely that if this A is a Pokemon, it will be the first Pokemon alphabetically to contrast with Zygarde. For example, if its name starts with AA or something like that, it would be the first Pokemon alphabetically. Of course, I'm referring to its name in English because that's the language that I mainly speak, but in other languages, I imagine they would keep a similar naming convention. I personally think this is really cool because up until now, we haven't had a way to really speculate on the name of this potential A Pokemon, but now that we're comparing it with Zygarde, maybe it starts with AA or something like that? Let me know in the comments what you think this Pokemon should be named, if it even exists at all. In terms of Zygarde's biology, it is made up of multiple cores and cells. Zygarde cores and Zygarde cells are slightly different. Cores are kind of like the parts of Zygarde's brain, and cells are kind of like the parts of Zygarde's body. Both cores and cells are collected within a Zygarde cube, and depending on how many are collected, that determines what form of Zygarde can be created. So far, we know of the 10% form, which looks like a dog, the 50% form that looks like a worm, and the complete form, which looks more humanoid. It's entirely possible that we'll see even more forms in Pokemon Legends Z-A. While there are many Zygarde cells, there are typically 5 Zygarde cores. These cores are red, orange, white, cyan, and blue. 5 cores, you say, and Lumio City has 5 circles in a pentagon shape. I think it's possible that in Pokemon Legends Z-A, we will find one of the cores in each of the 5 circular areas. Interestingly, like how the 5 cores are each represented by a different color, in modern-day Kalos, these 5 circles in Lumio City are also represented by different colors. However, the colors of these 5 circles don't align perfectly with the colors of the Zygarde cores. This gave me a little bit of pause on the idea that we would find these Zygarde cores in these 5 circles. Then I remembered how in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, we found Herba Mystica that didn't really connect at all to the Titan they were associated with. Or at least, I haven't really been able to find a connection. If you have, please let me know in the comments. If the colors for plot-relevant objects were mismatched in the most recent Pokemon game, I can imagine that it could also be mismatched in this one without causing too many problems. Other interesting thing about Zygarde cores and cells is that Zygarde cores, at least according to the anime, are sentient, whereas Zygarde cells are not sentient. We totally could have a little Zygarde core buddy that we hang out with throughout Pokemon Legends Z-A. Probably eventually 5 Zygarde core buddies, but they cannot battle, so their role would not be quite the same as having them on our team. Unless they change this in Pokemon Legends Z-A, which, to be fair, they totally could do. So Zygarde is the last Pokemon alphabetically and is a construct made up of cells and cores, but what is its purpose within the lore of Pokemon? Zygarde is referred to as the guardian of the ecosystem, a Pokemon that balances the forces of life and death. These forces of life and death in Pokemon are represented by Xerneas being life and Yveltal being death. All of these Pokemon have potential ties to Norse mythology. For people who are trying to theorize about potential new Pokemon, Norse mythology is probably a good place to start looking. Assuming Zygarde is going to play a pivotal role in Pokemon Legends Z-A, what would cause the balance between life and death to be disrupted? The ultimate weapon kind of feels like it makes a lot of sense for this, but it's not located in Lumiose City. And the description of the game says that we're not going to be traveling to other places. The entirety of the game is supposed to take place in Lumiose City. If this is true, maybe there could be secret work going on to gather the infinity energy for the ultimate weapon, rather than having it be built there as like a prototype or something like that. Alternatively, while the majority of the game probably takes place in Lumiose City, one of the things that was happening in Paris at this time was the construction of railways. Could these railways in Pokemon Legends Z-A allow us to go to other places, like where the ultimate weapon is in the modern time, as well as the Tower of Mastery? I personally hope so, but I'm not willing to bet on that based on the description of the game so far. But either way, if they're trying to gather infinity energy to power the ultimate weapon, regardless of where the ultimate weapon is actually located, having Pokemon gathered into areas where they can exploit their infinity energy makes a lot of sense. And since Pokemon tend to live in very different habitats, 5 circles, 5 different habitats, makes a lot of sense. Considering in the late 1800s, during Hausmann's redevelopment of Paris, which is almost certainly the time period this game is going to be based on, people under Hausmann's organization forced the poor to move further out of Paris. In Lumiose City, I wouldn't be surprised if they mimic this by having Pokemon represent the poor and having them move within these circles rather than be free roaming around the city. While some people have said that this wouldn't bring balance to people and Pokemon within Lumiose City, which appears to be part of the plan, this plan is being presented by humans for a city that would have had a medieval structure. For the humans, it might seem like these Pokemon are kind of intrusive. Basically, it would be making the city more beautiful, but at the expense of controlling a part of the population, that being Pokemon in Pokemon Legends Z-A. This forced coexistence would mess with the ecosystem a lot. Zygarde, being the guardian of the ecosystem, probably wouldn't be too happy about that. I can't really find anything in Pokemon that contradicts this as a possibility, and it also fits extremely well with the historical time period that we're almost certainly looking at. But of course, this is just speculation, and it's entirely possible that I could be wrong. Like, for example, another thing about Zygarde is that it typically stays out of sight. So maybe instead of finding the 5 cores in the 5 circles, we're actually gonna go into the catacombs of Paris in order to find Zygarde. Until we get more information about this game, there are so many possibilities, so I would love it if you shared your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and join our Discord Capsule Monsters where we discuss Pokemon theories. I hope you have a great day or night, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!